All right, so earlier today I was watching Red Table Talks with Jada Pinkett Smith and her family on Facebook, and they were talking about the racism that exists between white women and women of color. That's not what I'm going to talk about, but towards the end of the interview, Jane Elliott came out, and she has been an activist for equality for a long time, and initially she is the one who's responsible for the brown eye blue eye experiment, I believe back in the late 60s or early 70s. But she was talking about that racism was not always around, and it came to be around the 1400s at the time of the Spanish Inquisition. Now, I'm not going to have every single fact straight because I just learned this, but back before the Spanish Inquisition, in Spain and in Portugal, everybody lived and worked and made money peacefully. Christians, Muslims, and Jews. And it didn't matter what color you were. Classically, people think that when they talk about Moors, they're talking about black people from Africa. But Moors are people from Morocco, and they could have been black, brown, white, it didn't matter. For hundreds of years prior to this, for thousands of years, Arabic people had spread out a lot into Europe and spread their science and their math and their technology and allowed for all kinds of advancements. But suddenly, spearheaded by Spain and Portugal, if I'm remembering correctly, they wanted to get rid of the Jews. The Jews were the ones who were like the businessmen and the ones who could loan money, and they're also the ones who basically invented loaning money and then paying back with interest. The whole paying back with interest thing is seen as a sin to Christians. So Christians began to see Jews as like basically pawnbrokers. They weren't, the upstanding businessmen. They saw them as pawnbrokers. And so they decided they didn't want them around anymore. So if I'm correct in any means, don't try and burn me or anything. Like I said, I don't have all the facts straight. So they decided that all the Jews had to go. All the Arabs had to go, all the Muslims had to go, all the Jews had to go. If you weren't Christian, you had to go, or you had to convert to Christianity. And even if you did, you weren't trusted. They're like, oh, you are converted to Christianity, but you're still practicing your Jewish faith. We're going to burn you, all kinds of things like that. At the same time, not long after the Inquisition, after they expelled, what did they do? I think they expelled the Jews from Cordoba, Cordoba or Grenada. About a month later is when Granada, sorry. About a month later, that's when Columbus set sail. And his voyage to find the West Indies, quote unquote, was bankrolled by all of the riches and property taken from the Jews when they were expelled. At the outset, when he arrives to the New World, the island he renamed Hispaniola, but I can't remember what his original name was. There were about 8 million natives there. They called them Taínos. And when he met them, he thought they were nice people. They're nice, they're welcoming, they speak calmly with a smile. Those were his first initial thoughts of them. But his deal that he made with Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand is that he would receive 1/10 of anything that he found, and the rest would go to them. So he was highly incentivized to find as much riches as he could out of this endeavor. And that led him to his crazy ass ways, greed. He started requiring the natives to turn over a certain amount of gold every 3 months, and if he didn't, he'd hack off limbs and crazy shit like that. And then he started sending natives to Spain as slaves. Now, slavery had been around forever. The Romans had slaves. They had white slaves. And they were treated bad, but the whole subhuman treatment of slaves really didn't start till after Columbus set sail and colonialism started to expand over here. Back before the Spanish Inquisition, it didn't matter what color you were. But instead of segregating just on religion, it started segregating by color. And even though racism is terrible and anti-Semitism is also terrible, it's like with racism, they see the people of color as subhuman. So that is what I learned, and I'm going to have to do more research to solidify all the different facts. But it was really interesting to figure out where a lot of the deeply rooted type of racism that still exists in this country and many others, where it originated from, and how it's such a shame that all of the advancements and the unity that they had back in the 1400s just piffed because my religion's better. That's all I got to say about that. This is Sidra with Comparative Reasoning. Thank you for listening.